You know, in African setting, we have had this ideology that a Christian must have this pattern of dress code that must look as if the person is
Holy.
Holy, yes. So, is there anything wrong for a man of God to have some stylized pattern of dress code, like dreadlock, palming his hair, and all that?
As far as God is concerned, he's not bothered about your outward looks. He's looking at the heart. Let's look at 1 Samuel chapter 16.
Okay.
And see what God told Prophet Samuel when he went to the house of Jesse. When he saw the first son of Jesse, how he was built and how he looked macho, the prophet was almost deceived. The prophet said, this one is really the called of God. He's the one that will really serve as the king of Israel. But look at what God told him. Verse 7, but the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. So, as far as man's relationship with God is concerned, God is looking at your heart. And once your heart is in tune with God, you are accepted before God.
Is it that it is we African that is Africanizing it, trying to match our tradition to...
Culturally speaking, it's not just an African thing. Globally speaking, many cultures have a dress code that is acceptable in that culture. For example, there are so many cultures, both in Africa and outside Africa, that doesn't permit a man to wear dreadlocks, artificial dreadlocks, because there are some dreadlocks that are natural. They come by nature. They are not artificial. But the ones that people go out of their way to give to themselves, some cultures frown at it. Some cultures don't accept it. So if you are in a culture that does not accept dreadlocks, even though your relationship with God is sound and you are accepted before God, you will find it difficult being accepted by the people. Because culturally speaking, your dreadlocks is, they resist it. And as a preacher of the gospel, whose major assignment is to reach the people, in order not to allow your hair to be an opposition to the gospel that you preach, why wear dreadlocks? Exactly. Paul had a point, because he said, I become all things to all men in order that I may win some to Christ. So when you go to a place that is culturally somehow, you align with their cultural disposition, so that the message of your gospel can get across.
Those the ones that are not demonic,
and the ones that are not demonic, and the ones that are not sensitive. For example, I heard that there are some places where you go to that the culture permits a man to give you his wife to sleep with as an indication that you have accepted them, accepted their hosting. In that kind of situation, it is now left for you to stand your ground. That is actually when you bring the gospel. It is that time that you tell them that there is a kingdom that you represent. That even though this is their culture, but the kingdom that you represent doesn't accept this kind of culture. And then you bring scriptures and show them why it is not right for a man to sleep with a woman that is not his wife. And so you must arm yourself with scriptures at every point in time to defend your faith. When you go to a culture that presents something that is culturally acceptable, but goes contrary to the word of God, you now tell them that the kingdom that you represent, that made you come to them in the first place, does not accept this.
Because, you know, in the history of the Jews, they wear a dress that looks like females' gown.
They wear a dress that in some cultures looks like female dressing. So there are some cultures that tattoo is a taboo. Once you are wearing a tattoo, to them, you are not qualified to exist among human beings. So if you are to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ in that kind of environment and you're wearing a tattoo, you can find out that that tattoo has already disqualified you from bearing fruits. Because when you go out to reach out to them with the gospel, the first attraction is that tattoo in your body. And once they see the tattoo, they will be turned off. Everything you're saying will not make meaning to them. So it means that you have to relocate and find a culture that tattoo is not a taboo, so that you can be productive for the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you very much.
Outwardly speaking, God is not bothered about the way you look. He looks at your heart. It is in our relationship with our fellow men in terms of the culture and the tradition of people that we consider how a person looks like.
Which can
interfere with the gospel that you preach.
Yes.